Alright, Shalom Israel. Make sure that the mic is good, the volume should be alright. I know we got a couple glares on here today, but we wanted to try to make it a little bit brighter. Last couple classes look a little dark. Camera looks a little close. We'll be alright. Alright. Shalom Israel. Y'all Bashim Yahshua Baruch to the brothers. Y'all Shamar Latam Bashim Yahshua to the sisters. Brother Isupk, the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, established in 1969, 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We are led by Commanding General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other organizations. Coming to you live, Isupk MILWAUKEE, Lashawan Qadash class, where we go over the Hebrew language. We go over the characters that define our alphabet, the meanings behind it, word structure, sentence structure. Isupk MILWAUKEE is newer doing the Lashawan Qadash classes, so we're going to start off with some of the basics. Familiarity with the characters, so you know what you're looking at when you're reading it. And we'll get into more depth about what each character means, prepositions, pronouns, suffix, prefix. There's a lot of areas to be taken into consideration. The more advanced that we start developing into the classes. So for now, if you look back at the past month or so, we've gone over identifying the characters, the problems in the similarities, I should say, the similarities in between some of the characters and the confusion that they kind of cause between each other. So today we are going to finish off where we left off about 2 weeks ago. Last week we were in Chicago. Shout out to the Round Table of Truth in Chicago, Cap Marquardt, all the heavy hitters out there, man. Tomorrow, we went out there last week to help promote again Operation Reservation that's going on tomorrow in the open pavilion on the Menominee Reservation. Keep in mind, we got Passover coming up. The Lord's 55th annual Passover, April 20th in Durham, North Carolina. Houston Cookout coming up at the end of the month. Black Friday around the same time. Save you a couple bucks to get you something cheap. I mean, well, for a better price than it normally would have been sold as. Good quality equipment, electronics mainly. Just to help boost up the school, camp equipment, whatnot, for the next season. Because I know it's about to get cold, man. It's not about to be warm. It's about to be the opposite. So we're going to go back over. We had worked on the tribes of Israel and then the table of nations. And we had left off, we needed the last four, which would have defined Japheth, the Japhetic culture. I believe last three of them. No, we left off with Ham. We left off with Ham's kids. So now we're going to go to Japheth's kids. So now, the only kind of flip side to this is that we got to keep in mind Japheth's children have been displaced. So the people that inhabit their lands today that we're going to go over in a second are not the Japhetic people of antiquity that originally inhabited those lands. France, Russia, Spain, Greece. Something. It was more the European countries that Japheth did originally have a residence in, but through wars, normally that is what displaces people and families, right? Wars. We're noticing that right now. World War III, out there in between the so-called Jews, which we know today are not Jews, with our imposters and the Ishmaelites. So yeah, war does that. So, and I know we got two glares kind of right in the middle here. We're gonna try to cut that out. Try to skip over it. Just bear with me if you can't see something clearly. You know, you can engage in the chat. We're on Facebook and YouTube Live right now, so I'll be checking with that periodically. So if there's something you can't see, just let me know. And hey, shout out to MILWAUKEE too for these markers. You heard the call. You heard the call. We got some nice broader tip markers that definitely show up a lot better. Definitely show up a lot better. So the water to that sister. Cool lady. So let's see if we got room. So we might have to do this a little bit different considering where these glares are. So we're going to start off. Really, I'm just going to kind of skip that part. Because again, today the people that are inhabiting these lands, you're not going to see them out here today, but they're going to take on some of the names and identities of the people that they had captured. So we got Gomer. That shows up pretty good. We got Gomer. Got small real quick, huh? Gomer, we got Magog, we got Javon. Actually, we gotta need the Strong's Concordance again. There we go. Gamar. Got completion there. So again, it's always good to have a couple different sources to go to cross-reference each other. So I'll be looking at the definitions from the Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible and Blue Letter. I know there's a couple other apps out there that offer some thorough breakdowns of names and terms. So take your time just to go through and check it out. All right, so according to both, Gomer is completion. So now it would be pronounced Gamar. Now we can still see that. Not good. All right, so we're gonna have to skip. Skip those areas. Let me just double check. Pretty much. So Gomer in English, completion. In the Hebrew, you would have pronounced it Gamar. So that's gonna look like Gamar. Is that too high? No, that's clear. All right. So Ga by itself, Mar gets connected. Gamar. That's for Gomer. Again, this is in the Paleo Hebrew. We're gonna print or write it out in the same in the Assyrian. And again, everybody's penmanship might be a little bit different. Let's just, practice makes perfect. So it's good to write these out every once in a while. Gamar. And it's good to check other classes from different zones too, to see how. I don't want to say necessarily the variations, because again, we're going to be doing everything the same way. Just again, your penmanship might be a little bit different. So So if somebody does just kind of have some odd penmanship, you know, it'd be good to check out a couple different classes, a couple different zones, just to see, you know, how other people are writing it, because this can be a little, it can be a little tricky to get the form down. It's like calligraphy in that sense. It can be a little weird to, you know, see what angle you got, you know, how you're writing this, how you're writing that. It ain't got to be as, you know, as confusing or dramatic as all that, but it can be for first timers. Once you get more familiar with it, it's really not that bad. So now we're gonna go to Magog. And so, like, I do need to correct myself too, though. And Japheth had other children. He had other sons. But this is where you're gonna see the names, some of these names in the table of nations, if you were to trace them back to the biblical origins. And again, we're talking about the land association to the home tribe of that region. That's not even the right way to say it. Let me try that again. 1 second. And that's the part I forgot to do too. That's it, because I was running out of space. I didn't put the up top. So we have to move these down a little bit, because these are the so-called French that we would see today. They can be identified Gomer, Gamar, completion. The same way that you have these imposter Jews taking claim of the heritage of Israel, of Judah, of Levi primarily. You never hear them talk about Benjamin or Manasseh or Zebulun or Naphtali. It's always like those chief tribes that everybody, not to say unjustly reveres, because they're all solid brothers too, and they got great reputations, and they held the reins for a long time. And again, we know the kingly line of succession is coming through Judah. But that's all they're banking on, is kind of those names. It's like dropping names at the club or something like that to get somebody's attention. Today, the French are not Japhetic. But if you go back and you see who claims that land, what identity they would assume Gomer's identity. Just like the Russians assume Magog. It's like the Greeks assume Javan. The Greeks was at the Javan. So now we got Russia, Russian, and Greek. So Magog, in English, that's how you're going to see it. Select it. In Hebrew, Magog. Magog. Yeah, Magog, Magog in Hebrew. And it only ended up like this because again, the Japhet's tribes didn't really spread like that. We'll do another class on that too, though. From 1463. So now one thing with the Hebrew language as well, that again we can get into. We're gonna have to get into it at a later time. I don't want to inadvertently skip steps, but Magog, Magog is actually has a prefix on it, because the definition that's given us goes back to Gog. And I'm sure if anybody's heard about some of the prophecies of Gog and Magog, you can start to see the connection there. So it's not giving it a solid definition, but it is describing Magog as a barbarous northern region. Barbarous. It's like a barbarous northern region. And it traces it back to the root word in that name would be Goag. And it's saying of uncertain derivation. Gog, the name of an Israelite. I'd like to know who that was. Also, some northern nation. And again, this is why you're going to see that that ambiguity with Japhet's line. So the Ma in Magog That's a prefix. That means of. So to be of, or like from God. At least so the name of it. So when Japheth was naming his kids, obviously at that time Israel wasn't the nation. So that Israelite that was named God afterwards down the road, of course, would have still been an Israelite because it's at least identified as an Israelite. Um, could not have been the progenitor of this. So now we have to do a little bit more homework to see the definition of God. But at the very least, from the Strongs, it does point us to God. Or wow. So we can check out this as well. It's given a description of a barbarous northern nation, a northern region. That's not going to be the definition of the name. So, MILWAUKEE. MILWAUKEE. And then when we looked at the definition of God too, so again it said uncertain derivation, also of some northern nation. An Israelite was also named after this, but besides the point for these purposes. MILWAUKEE. For the Greek, Javan. And of course, in the Hebrew, we did not have V's in our dialect. Or J's. It's like I should have started there. We did not have J's. So it would not have been a Javan back in our dialect, but it would have been would have started with a ya. Ya. And normally they had switched up the V with a W. So originally it would have been a wa, a ya wa. Trying to find this. Probably from the same as, so the definition that they're giving us, kind of a hypothesis on their end. Effervescence. Well, in his case, effervescing. And it's tying us to another word, yayan, which would be the root word of it, giving it effervescence. By usage, it's giving the implication of intoxication. So I know we've all probably heard that word, effervescence. Let's look that up as well. So I want to just leave it at that now. All right, so effervescence. Well, one. All right, so one definition, going from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the property of forming bubbles. Which I'd like to think, even though he's not an Israelite, that his aim was not for blowing bubbles, but it also says lively. So this is Javan. Yawan. How to spell effervescing? Effervescing. Let me get that definition back up. SCING. Effervescing. That's what the man was doing. But of course, if you go to just the root for that word, effervescent, getting bad connection down here. 36. But yeah, to make lively. So to make lively. Na is separate. The wa and the na is connected. Make that a little off. That's about the way it helps though. So your one, and again, wa and the na are going to be very similar. The difference is going to be the height. The difference is going to be the height. The wa is going to fall in line with the height of the rest of the characters, and only at the end of it, with the na, with the ka, or are you going to see where it drops to a different height than the rest of the characters, and it's at the end. So if you were to see the ra, the wa, the na all together, because they all got that smoother kind of curve, the main indication is that it's at the end of the word. And that's gonna let you. That's gonna kind of help separate it for you, so that you know which one you're supposed to be pronouncing, what you're looking for. Get this up there for another second. And I know we kind of ran into this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Ham and his sons and how he had named them. And some of them didn't really have a clear-cut definition. So however Ham decided to share his, or to name his children, that was completely and utterly his decision. And a lot of that history and knowledge was not passed down through our line of it, because he wasn't in our biblical line of our development as a nation. So maybe the Nigerians know, what he named his kids. Maybe there's a remnant out there in Siberia that knows about Magog and what that goes back to. Some of the information, could have been shared, why we know what Gomer stems from. But some of this, didn't go that far with us. And there's nothing wrong with that. As Israel, we don't claim to be the first of anything, the oldest of anything, especially like in relevance or importance necessarily. It's not that big a deal if we are or if we aren't, is the point. Because we do have the oldest surviving language, which is Lashawan Qadash, not Yiddish. We do have that. All of our forefathers, all the nations, all of our forefathers go back to that flood, that extinction level event that took place. Damn, I missed it again. Which is why you're going to see that common flood story in every major civilization's history. Like, everybody's got one. Everybody's got one, as they should, because of how badly it affected everything. Everybody was having so much fun in Babylon, doing whatever they wanted, eating and drinking and bedding down whatever made them happy, which is what made the Lord furious and against them, against the world as we know it. Lucky, give me 1 second. Having some issues here. All right, we're good. All right, so we got 2 more to cap this off. So we got the Ashkenaz. The Ashkenaz and Tarshish. And I know I might be explaining this wrong, and we'll definitely get any confusion cleared up. But as we know today, you have the Ashkenazi Jews. Originally would have been inhabitants of the Germanic tribes. But today we know Germany as extensions of Edomites. And we know that the Ashkenazi are extensions of Edomites. Their assumption of that name, of that I don't even want to say culture necessarily, but of that name of that region that they identify with today, let's just know again that there was that displacement with Japhet. So the area that we would associate these tribal names and families with does not represent the original inhabitants, but the names that are assumed today. If that makes it a little clearer. So like maybe I'm explaining this wrong, but because again, if you go into the biblical records in Genesis, you're going to see Ashkenaz being as one of Japhet's sons. But today, we got these Ashkenazi Jews. Which, coincidentally, ain't that something? And so now, like around Germany too, you've got like Austria and a couple other things. This is around the French, you got a few. Around Russia, you got a few. Around Greek, you got a few. Around Germany, you got a few. Around Spain, you got a few. Other countries that these guys had sprouted, into that helped develop. That's why also if you go into Revelations about was it the beast with the what was it like the seven heads and the 10 horns and the 7 crowns. It's like if I'm paraphrasing that wrong, but if you go into Revelations, you'll see that description of it, and that's where we get the uh, the predominant global powers and the common markets. So, well, as a result of those global powers, they were able to build a foundation for those common markets. We'll definitely do a Revelation breakdown one of these days too. We're gonna start with Genesis, probably work our way through until that bell rings. We got time. So we got the Ashkenaz. Or we have the Ashkenaz. Pretty convenient. While I'm here, Tarshish. So I'd like to move this down a little bit. Found it. Slaki, bear with me 1 second. Excuse me for 1 minute. Bear with me. Be right back. Alright, so lock you. I appreciate the break. The water, the water. A lot of background noise. Trying to see if the neighbors can keep that down. I don't know if that's coming through on the mic. If y'all can hear all that banging. Yeah, man, them kids. Alright, so we got German, we got the Ashkenaz, we got Tarshish, so-called Spain, Tarshish. Get back to my page here. Now let's looking at the definitions of them. We got Ashkenaz. What could that possibly mean? We would look up the Ashkenazi Jews. So-called Jews. There we go. All right, that doesn't give them much of anything. All right, so all that's given us is of a foreign origin. Foreign origin. The definition of his name. So similar to the issues that we ran into with Ham, we just don't know. So now in the Hebrew, you're going to see it on the Paleo, starting. Ash, that's going to be connected. Ka, separate. Now it's connected. Ashkenaz. I'll do two things at once. Ashkenaz. All right. Tarshish. Tarshish. Let's see what they're talking about. Tarshish. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that is interesting. This look like he was named after a place. With a certain stone of some type of reverence and value. Place on the Mediterranean. Alright, so definitely seems like more of a descriptive word, as is, well, descriptive name, as is many of our names. Descriptive to character or environment. So here it's giving us a couple. Yeah, nothing too definitive as far as etymology or origin of what they're referring to, but a gem, a stone, possibly a topaz or a beryl, which I know topaz can be different colors. Beryl is normally, I think, a green, or kind of like a jade. So all of these, the past couple of them, need a little bit more digging into. So this one, the possibilities. The way that they're saying it, either named after a region That's not how you spell region. A region of certain stones. But then it also kind of said, well, it could have just been a stony region. Which kind of, so they said it like, you know, kind of reversed too. So could have been that stony region, but only descriptive, or the only reason why they would mention it like that, stony region, is because of the type of stones that were there. Otherwise, you got a whole lot of places that are stony areas on Earth, a whole lot of places. So it would seem more likely that this would have been named after, that this man would have been named after, or inspired by, I should say. Not named after, but inspired by. Maybe certain stones of a certain region that they were in. Where we might be able to date back to around Spain. So that's in the Mediterranean area. I think what's right by that? Portugal. Portugal's also right by that. There was actually also one more, right? Well, let's do this. So Thrash. Yes. So Thigh separate. Rash is connected. Yash is connected. Thrash, yes. Tarshish, Thrash, yes. Rash, yes. So we'll definitely give these a little bit more consideration. See if we can't dig that up. But while you're reading through the scriptures, when you come across these names, these beginning stages, just to help you kind of get familiar with them. So you can identify the characters that you're reading and pronunciation. We'll definitely dig up more of the definitions. Because as exhaustive as this Strong's Concordance is, it does not have some of these answers. So we were able to identify, Kittim. That was the other one that we needed to look up. Kittim. Before I go too far. Kittim. What's up? So we got Kitsom as our last name. Kathion. That's unusual. Katia. Kati. It's Kati. That's how they would pronounce it. Because there appears to be variant spellings of the word. Katia. Alright. So that's an interesting development in his name. Well, after so it's been up there long enough. We can erase this. So Kitsom. So Kitsom will be our last one. And this is interesting. So now they're giving it let's see, referencing Cyprus. So now you got Kitsom in the Hebrew. Yom. So now anytime we see the yom, that means plural. It's giving it the root word of Kitty. So now, I don't believe Cyprus is a plural form. I don't believe we can look into that too, but denoting this region, people from this region, again in the Mediterranean area. So again, Yam being plural, Kafdan, in English, you're going to see it as kitty, kitty. Get your mind out the gutter. Kat, Yam. So the people of this area, these peoples, is what that's talking about. If we were to look up it's going to say Katya. Another variation is there's another ya on there that could be pronounced different though. Those two could actually be connected. You don't really see that happening, but it could be. So Katya, Katyaya, Katyaya. For the people of Kitty, which would be Katyam. So the definition really only references Cyprus, or as they would say it in here, denoting Cyprus, but only in the plural form, hence the yum at the end. A Kittite, a Kittite, or a Cypriot, hence an islander in general, i.e. the Greeks or Romans on the shores opposite of Palestine, or Chittim or Kittim. So more Mediterranean individuals would have started in that region. Now again, we know through domination, the dominant family group that's in the Mediterranean are no longer Japhetic peoples. They are Edomites. Nonetheless, got them. Got them. So connected here, connected here. Oh, I got greedy. If we had all this room, let's just take it all. Got them. The other version that it has up there, because of what it refers to, is what it gives us. So either these are connected, well, these are going to be connected anyway, but either these two are going to be separate, or guess what? Guess what might be crazy? Those can be connected. I said something else for my homework tab. Don't really need to worry about this too much. Just focus our attention back here. Kathium. 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 For Kittim. For Kathium. Well, not Kathia. Yeah, Kathium. So again, giving it that plural connotation for the people of that area. So it could have been just generalizing like the islands in that Cyprus area. Not giving it a direct land base as we had seen like with maybe, Spain and France and Germany and Russia. Give you a couple seconds to write that down before we close this out. Yeah, so patrial, from an unused name denoting Cyprus, but only in the plural. A Kittite. A Kittite. Kittii is how they spell it. Yeah, so from the way that this is looking, it's looking as if these should be connected. Kittie. 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 Kathium. Kathie. Or Kathia. From what I'm seeing, Kathia and Kithye are pretty much the same thing, just kind of different pronunciations of it. So you might see it as Kathia, you might see it as Kathye. So Kathyum, so Kittim. Plural form of Kathia. Talking about them like kind of collectively. Definitely something that to look into to clear up what was going on with Ham. If there's any other origin stories of how he named his kids, we had seen some of the problems with like Ammon and and Moab about their names and where that had originated from. And there was a lot of confusion around, well, not confusion, but ambiguity around Ham and how he had come up with the names of his kids. So Japheth kind of going through something different, well, something similar. Different, I'd say different in the sense of, for Ham, like they just kind of dropped it off almost completely. For Japheth, more shrouded in mystery. All right, so we'll continue this next week. Before we get into like the sentence structure, word structure, prefix, suffix, things like that. We're gonna take a little bit more time just to again identify the characters, identify names, so that when you read through the scriptures, you can make that correlation a little bit better. And then we're gonna start working more on the setups for the words, for the sentences. So with that, Shalom Israel, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah, Barakatham to the brothers, Yahweh Shamar Latham, Bashem, Yahweh Shah to the sisters. We'll see you next week.